Does anybody here actually do some web app testing? Oh, that's awesome. Great. So we don't need to be here then, because you guys know everything, right? No? Okay. So we are information security consultants. We actually do work together.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. I have about 8 years of experience in information risk and IT. Actually, I'll backtrack that. About 2 years as an information risk consultant, 8 years in IT, mostly in app support and as well as on the project side of things.
Myself, Harshal, as she just introduced, I have been in IT for about 15 years. Started as a software developer and moved into audit. From there, InfoSec, kind of like, I started liking this whole thing. And from there, it started on to a couple of years in web application penetration testing. Guys, can you hear us clearly?
Yes? No, louder, louder, louder. That's good? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. We actually don't talk that loud, I think, in real life, but maybe we do.
Only when she screams.
Yes, that's true. I do scream. So this is going to be a presentation about our journey. We're going to take a little ride with us, and you're going to see how we got here. How we actually got here to BSides was actually a challenge. Our mentor looked at us and said, Natalia, Harshal, you're presenting at BSides. You need to submit your slides, but you should create them first. So after about 10 minutes of breaking a chair and our mouths dropping and staring at him to ensure was he actually serious, we realized he never jokes about these things, and that is why we're here. But backtrack about 2 years, first time I ever saw cross-site scripting, I had no idea what it was. I was like, are you serious? This could actually be on a website. Why is this there? How could they even let this happen? I don't understand. I was actually quite speechless. And then I saw it again and again and again. For yourself?
Yeah, I mean, again, XSS was the first thing, like reflected XSS was, my colleagues who were testing within my organization, they used to get XSS pop-up. And I was very frustrated. At the beginning of it, I said, you know what, enough of InfoSec, I'm not going to do this. So that actually initiated the whole idea of learning this. Putting a lot of effort, hard work into understanding how to get those pop-ups, what XSS means, what clickjacking means. I had no clue before that. What SQL injection means. And so the whole exercise of learning and then coming to this point in a couple of years is what we're sharing with you guys.
So in our world, we had a lone soldier. He had the qualifications. He knew how to do web app penetration testing. But in our organization, this was all outsourced. Nobody did it in-house. He took it upon himself because he's curious, and he wanted to see, could he produce the same reports that they could, apples to apples, same scope, same tools.
So here I want to ask you guys a question, like how many of you guys actually outsource the Pentest application to vendors?
Okay. How many of them do it in-house? Okay, wonderful. Perfect. So why are we here? So anyways, maybe then this is something that you've gone through yourselves, or maybe you can find a little bit of a takeaway on how to maybe adapt something within your organization. Or maybe we're just here for half an hour and you get to look at us. Either one, pick and choose. We don't mind. So anyways, he wanted to do some apples to apples, ensure same scope, similar tools. Was he going to be getting the same results? Surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you have looked at different vendor application pen test reports, be it automated or, in my experience, I also looked at the ones that were manual, for example, where you find severity ratings, the risk ratings are skewed up because at times what they usually do is they'll pick up the report from the tool, they would copy and paste whatever comes out. In my cases, I've seen like tools give out false positives. We have to go through them, validate those false positives, which is an exercise in itself. Like you cannot, and in my experience, these vendors as well as I don't mean to say vendors who did the pen test, these are vendors who provided the solutions to us as well, like who share the pen test report with you guys. So those pen test reports we reviewed on our end, and in this case, what Natalia is just saying, the person who mentored us was doing the whole full cycle on himself, doing apples to apples comparison of one report which he took from the vendor and the one pen test that he did on his own.
And needless to say, they didn't exactly match in our case. We noticed that there were items that were missed. Well, he noticed that there were items that were missed, even though they were similar scope. So again, apples to apples, but the reports were different. So looking at that, why is that? Was it because he was more familiar with the application? With this one, no, he wasn't. He didn't have any, he didn't have additional insight regarding the web app, but it was just what we looked at, what he looked at, what they looked at, and what the report provided.
Yeah, the whole thing triggered the thought of actually, taking us together, finding who interests our interest, who's interested in learning this thing, who has the technical ability, and started our training. So
So the desire to learn. Were we interested? After he started showing us the cross-site scripting, he started seeing that we were really, really curious about things because we wanted to start seeing more. We were looking at our own personal lives, and we were looking at sites that we would frequently go to and be like, I wonder, is this site really safe? We started asking a lot of questions. We didn't do anything without authorization, of course, but we started looking. And by looking, we started looking at our own internal sites, and we started with passive testing. That way, we weren't disrupting anything, but we were gathering information, we were learning. From passive testing, of course, you're maturing the model, and you move on to shadow tester, and so forth. Also, do note, I forgot to mention, and I do apologize, you'll start noticing that there's little magnifying glasses on certain items. Those are takeaways that we do have. So somebody had mentioned that their presentation will be available, hopefully for download afterwards, and we do have takeaways. So anything that does have a magnifying glass, we have also put as a takeaway. Okay. So starting with our training, we were looking at DVWA, which is free. We started looking at different daily incidents that were happening, what was happening with these sites, and what could we learn from it. So we received a lot of homework. But also, along with readying the Army, we needed a couple of weeks of dedicated training time. So if this isn't happening in your organization or you want to add additional training to it, it does take a few weeks of dedicated training.
Yeah, and I mean, most of you guys might already be aware of DVWA, multi-day. The whole exercise of actually putting this together in a VM, when you give these challenges to your team, like teammates, it's a technical learning experience. Each time he or she is actually going through the challenge of memory management within the VM. Java is a memory hog. Different applications, tools that use Java. You tend to know that you need to upgrade your RAM. Allocate some RAM. Allocate more memory to Kali, for example. So these day-to-day challenges that you face will give you expertise, and you gradually go on increasing your experience on how to use these tools, right?
We also realized that once we went down this rabbit hole, there was no going back. So again, once you can and see what we've seen, and not only did it pique our interest, and we're still here doing it, but we realized we started recruiting others and wanted more individuals to ramp up and get into our world.
One thing I would like to highlight here, which is the technical skill assessment. You guys can have it in your organization as well. It's a simple sheet, some bunch of questions that you send out to individuals to understand the interest and their experience. They'll come back and let you know that they know this. Probably they know incident handling very well. They know network security very well. They know web app pen test very well. You may not even be aware that there are teammates who know about this. And then you can ask questions based on whatever they have assessed themselves on. From there on, get into the interest, desire to learn, putting in the hard work, effort, and giving them challenges day to day.
Exactly. So we started with maturing the program. So we started again with a lone soldier who's doing this on his own in an organization that 99.9999% of all web app testing was outsourced to one person doing it for his area. And now what we have is, in a large organization, we have a small team that is getting recognition. We started looking not only at our own internal, compiling an internal list of all of our web applications. We started doing planning sessions, but we started getting recognition. Senior management was starting to take notice because they were looking at the dollars. The dollars were other groups had huge budgets for pen testing, and our group had a very small, slim budget. But then they started thinking, well, why do they have such a small budget? And yet they have such a large list. Their list wasn't smaller than anybody else's, maybe the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, but let's say the same size, but our budget was very, very small, and yet we were completing these tests. So you've got senior management out looking at you, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because we kind of like to fly under the radar. I'm quite sure most individuals here, we're in security and IT, we don't really like that recognition. So with that, we started realizing that we also needed to gain additional information. Not only did we have our POCs with our testing, we had our high-level details, we had our report, but we also started seeing, okay, how else can we report this to ourselves? How else are we going to start planning for our next test? Because before, it was just Harshal and I yelling at each other across the ways, going, hey, I got a test coming next week. You got capacity? Yeah, sure. Sounds great to me. But then we started realizing we got to be a little bit more organized, because this yelling back and forth doesn't help when you've got a multitude of other things. This is only about 30% of our allocation. We are actually also working on other work, and we'd start forgetting. So we thought we need to really clean up our program and mature it. And now we've got other people who are interested, so we need to be able to track them as well.
Again, on the inventory of web applications, you will find using varied tools. What I just want to highlight here a few of them that we use. I was ReconNG to do a DNS lookup on our domains. WhatWeb. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kali. It's a free tool. Eyewitness to actually capture the website screen prints. What it does is, like, all these tools together, we put up in a script. We created automated scripts so that they can go each time and grab the results. Linux, you can put bash scripts together. And what happens is, with the Eyewitness, you can actually have a full HTML report, which is very good for senior management. Like, if you're sharing these reports with business units to let them validate the websites that they're having. So you can use these. These are all free tools. Like, you don't need to pay for them.
Because we're all about free. Everything is frugal. Everything is free. There is, of course, the little bit of cost, which we will tell you all about, but we're all about free. Which takes us to money. See? Money. Everybody loves money. We also want to keep it. We don't want to blow it away, or we don't have the authority to blow it all away because it's not ours. So, Kali's free. Why not use it? Laptops. Everybody here, I'm assuming, has a laptop personally and professionally. Quite sure. If not, really need to get one. It's amazing. Sorry. Burp license. Burp license. It costs about $349 US for the year, and that's for professional. That equates to about $450 Canadian at this time. That was a couple days ago. I have no control over the exchange rate, so I do apologize if that changes. But that's pretty cheap, right? We're talking about frugal here. Next thing you know, we want to ensure. Harshal had mentioned about RAM and memory. We learned the hard way. Ensure that that is upgraded. We've had many times where our pro machines just crashed and just could not execute a test. Ensure you do have capacity for that. So we also realized with time, we had a quicker turnaround. I mentioned that I would just yell over at Harshal. Harshal would just yell over at myself. We're on a call, and somebody wants a pen test, and we schedule it pretty much right away, our turnaround time. We make it happen. Now, you're talking about outsourcing this to a vendor. You've got to ensure, do you have a contract? Are you able to do so? Do you need approval for this? When can it be scheduled? Then you also have to think about costs. Now, how much does a vendor charge for a pen test? Anybody have an idea? Sorry? 3,000? 8,000?
Yeah. But it's an
Just
average.
Just an
yeah.
average.
15 to 30,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depending. Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah. So again, that was going with around our numbers of our contracts that we were looking at, and that was for an automated test. It wasn't for a manual one, for our contracts that we're looking at. Because remember, this is our journey.
And then, again, if the site fails, you have
That's
to
a
retest
retest.
again.
Now,
It's a
also
separate
realize we had one site that failed 7 times. Now, I'm not quite sure if that's normal for you guys, but definitely we had another one going head-to-head with it. That was about 6 times, and we were trying to see if it would actually beat it. So if we were bringing in that money, we'd have some nicer clothes here while we were presenting, and probably real money to be throwing at you. Okay.
Go next.
Yeah. So this one, everybody knows about the security testing methodology life cycle. We're not really going to go through this in detail, but if you don't know, slides I was told would be made available, but it's basically going to go from inception, you're planning, you're talking to somebody, gathering some information, you want to find out, what does the environment look at, then you're going to start your pen testing, you're going to get your findings, you're going to start reporting it, getting your POCs, and then you're going to have your walkthrough. Don't forget your walkthrough. You can't just hand over your report and say, your site failed, sayonara, bye-bye. They don't really like that, we found out. They actually want to know why their site failed, because they want to remediate it, or so they say.
These are the Webapp pen test tools that we frequently use. We're not here to market Burp, but we went through a bunch of tools testing them, and we felt that Burp is the one that we will use. It has a bunch of extenders. SQL Map is free. Somebody said like the security priority line is free, easy, quick. So whatever is free, bring it on. Supplemental accessor. I don't know how many of you use accessor. We tried doing a bunch of experiments with accessor, tried to load payloads. It doesn't work right now. I don't know, it's something to do with the tool, but you guys can use it. Nikto, again, an attack proxy. And OWASP Zap is again an attack proxy. The only reason why we like Burp is the extenders. They're amazing. We'll get into detail for a couple of extenders.
Well, I would also say the reason why I also like Burp, besides the extenders, is I just like the look and feel of it. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a girl. OWASP wasn't as sexy for me. Didn't really like it as much, so the look and feel did not work. I found that just not something that I really enjoyed using as well.
These are a few extenders that we use. Really handy is the Logger++. Why we say that, we'll come to that, but it captures all the logs along with the Burp history. Version reporter, software version reporter, and vulnerability scanner. These are the 2 new ones that we have seen that have come up. What these 2 do is they will look up the version of, for example, web server running. We'll look for the CVEs and then report back to you guys. Again, CSRF scanner, ActiveScan++, CO2. CO2 was very handy, and I'll come to that soon.
And these are all part of Burp Suite Professional. So again, you're paying that one-time cost a year, and this is all included. You just need to go into the little store inside of it, and you're not paying additionally, you're just downloading it. So that is available for you if you're not aware. So again, frugal. So we have a web app penetration test report that we end up sending to our clients. Clients always want to know, first thing, we get emails, phone calls right away, even before the ticket closes. How are we doing? Is our site failing? What's going on? Is it passing? Are we okay? Can you guys close it? That happens to us quite often. But what we do is we can't just let them know verbally. We also like to send them a report. We keep this for our own metrics. Senior management also likes it, but we really, really like it because we like to know what did we do so we can go back at the end of the year and tell our boss and say, look how amazing we are. But we also like to give it to the client so that way they can see it. As you can see, I think you can see, it's pretty basic. It tells you the company, it gives you the URL, the dates, and we encompass the OAuth's top 10, not 2017, but this is the OAuth's top 10 that we capture on here. And we capture it with lovely color coding. You know right away whether the site failed, and you know, hello? Oh, there, where the finding was. Sorry, it's went away. And then we also started realizing that we had a few company-specific ones that started popping up. So this is part of our maturing model. Harshal was testing, and he started finding some cores. He started finding some host header poisoning. He was getting really, really excited because it wasn't the first time he saw this. So he was like, you know what, I really think we need to start demonstrating this to our mentor as well as to myself. He's like, we need to track it. I think he wanted to track it for his own different metrics reasoning, but we also like to track it for senior management. And then we, of course, put our little notes, because that doesn't always come with the OWASP. So what else did we find? What do we want them to know about? And going back to readying the Army, we have our testers, we have our passive testers, we have our shadow pen testers, people who are training. We needed to track them as well. Now, we're lazy. We don't want multiple places that we want to be tracking all this information with. We want to track it in one place. Not saying that the client receives that information. We, of course, crop that part out, but we have one document where we're able to track all of this information, and it is locked down.
A couple of things that I want to highlight here is the business logic failure. One of the pen tests that I was doing here, it was a kind of employee directory, and the trick was actually to go to the CEO, and then you will get a dump of like everything. So it's just tricky, you know. Sometimes it has nothing to do with pen testing. It's just the trick that you put in. So we wanted to track that as well, and you will find that in your applications as well. The configuration parameters here, this is a question to you guys. Like, have you guys ever looked at GitLab? If you guys are using GitLab, how many of you use GitLab within your organization? So did you try running some searches within the GitLab code, like, hard-coded credentials, for example?
Admin.
You'll find a lot, so you can use within your databases. We found a lot.
We normally go shopping there.
Yeah, if you want to find the passwords.
So we also have a framework. So again, going with the maturity model, we need to not only review pen testers in our own org, in our own group, of how are they testing? Are these true findings? How are they testing it? But we also have to review external penetration tests reports that come in. So I know quite a few of you here said you conduct your own. Quite sure you also review external ones. Show of hands. Yeah, just a handful. Okay, so this would also help us. So what we have done is just, we didn't put all of them up there, of course. That's way too many. The slide would be too busy, and we'd be here all day. But we decided just to put four of them up, and cross-site scripting reflected easy. What did the tester do? Did they put in a payload? Was it reflected back? Did they view the source? So just the steps that we would go through when we're talking to one of our colleagues.
Yeah, the idea was basically to actually come up with certain set of questions for each type of finding that you have. Like if you're using Burp and there are different type of findings that are listed, you can have a bunch of questions to validate whether the guy has actually done his POC. What I've done here is I'm just showing you guys that how can you leverage Burp with other free tools available. This is a repeater window of Burp to a DVWA. I don't know if you're able to see. It's a DVWA link, URL. So you basically send it to the intruder. What you do is, this was what I was talking about, CO2. It's an amazing tool. If you like command line a lot, then what you can do is you can configure the parameters in CO2. The whole command line is actually generated in the first highlighted box. You can set the options in the tabs, which is given below. If you want to do enumeration, databases, banner, or whatever you want to dump, and then use your command line. Just put it in SQL map, and then it will run. So this is just leveraging the Burp extenders with the free tools that are available. What I've done is I've put a link to payloads, which you'll find in the references. This is a dump of like 4.5 gig of payloads that you can get, and you can use it with Burp. Here, what I've done is, again, the repeater window. What I'm doing, I don't know if you're able to see this, it's too tiny. But what I'm doing is there are XSS payloads within the folder that I just showed. It's probably I don't know, somewhere. First DB, sorry. Is the first DB that I used. And you can use XSS payloads, load it, run it with the intruder, and identify the string, like, with the grep match, and, it runs. So there is a 4.5 gig of database, which it's freely available, not made by me, but you guys can download. I have the link in there. And she's to blame.
I'm to blame, yes, yes, I'm to blame. Incidents. Has anybody ever been blamed for an incident? Yay, my people. That's great. So we do have a pen test that we let individuals know that we will be pen testing, but something goes wrong along the way. Wasn't us. And the first phone call comes to our team. Our poor mentor gets a phone call or an email, and then he turns around, or our boss turns around. It's like, is anybody testing now? And they look at us. We've been blamed for, taking down a site, servers, network connectivity, applications. So when Harshal mentioned logs, and he said we'd come back to that later, that's when, during the maturity model, we started realizing, you know what, we really need to keep our logs because we need to clear our name. We didn't actually do this. This wasn't us. But nobody, of course, would believe us if we said that. I don't know why. I think we look trustworthy, but they don't believe us for some reason. We have a rep. So logs. Logs are evidence. Always retain your logs. We started looking at Logger++. That is an extender within Burp, and we started being able to save that. Do note, though, if you close your Burp state, it is not saved when you reopen it. You must save that each time before you close your Burp state. We learned that the hard way. But the good thing is that you can run it through a converter, and you can produce that as a CSV, and that could be sent over. So again, that was part of our maturity model. And I think we still keep getting blamed for things, and that will just continue for us.
This is a tool that I have developed within, this is again, the link will have this tool. It's a small database. What it does is it generates a report for the management. It's not really nice, but you guys can use it if you want. The source is open.
Management thinks it's amazing, though.
So, but the database as well as the PHP report is available. You can do SQL injection to this, it will work.
The good part is we also use it for tracking who's assigned to each test. You don't see that here because management doesn't need to see who's assigned to each test and who's actually executing it. But it is in the ticket, and then on the back end, we actually track all of that for ourselves.
This is the logger tool that I was mentioning. If by chance you don't have Logger++ history saved, Burp has a history if you have saved the state. Sorry. So if you have the Burp history, Burp state saved and you restore it, what you can do is there is a tool called Burp History Converter. I have that in the link. Again, it's a takeaway. What it does is like the first section you see is the CSV converted file here, and the second section you see is the XML. So Burp creates the XML, but if you want to convert it to CSV, you can use this handy tool.
So what we would like to tell you is, which we should have also told you, how many individuals have sites that are hosted on Salesforce? Oh, only one. Okay. I don't know if you looked at your contract, but you're also able to pen test that. So definitely look at your contract. But also look and see if they've deployed Akamai. Definitely take a peek at that. We do have some Salesforce sites, and within the contract, our lone soldier was able to realize that we were able to test those. Okay. And Harshal was talking about takeaways, and that was the magnifying glass. So we do, some of these are things that have been internally developed and things that have not, such as the Burp History Converter, the DVWA. We just want to make sure that individuals know if they don't have this already, or if they do, but they need to leverage a little bit more information or want to do some compares, they're more than welcome to go and check it out.
The link is at Codex Pentest. This is the one where you can get the ones that we created, and the rest of them are here.
So,
Sorry.
Oh.
Any questions? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you mentioned that at your workplace, you were pen testing, and then you broke something, and then a logging server was not set up, so there was no trace back to you. So you just got away with this.
we don't get away with anything.
And then you implemented logging so they could catch you.
Yeah, kind of.
Does this make sense?
So we always need to make sure. So we had the two different logs. We had the Logger++, which we implemented afterwards. Two sets of books, because you got to cook the books, right? No, we realized that Burp does. We always had our state saved. So when it was the mad scramble of clearing our name, we needed to make sure that we could pull our logs from there. But then we realized Burp has an extender for Logger++, and that was way simpler. Because remember, we want quick, simple, easy, fast, and free.
Right. I think we don't. We just.
And we have 1 minute, so we are getting kicked off the stage. If you want to talk to us some more, there's our stuff.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.